Once again, new podcast, 76er burner accounts, which I may end up talking about on YouTube, I don't know. And then the Drake Pusha T beef. We're going to talk about my Boston Celtics. They went down in Game 7 to LeBron and the Cavs. And now, looking at just how good they were this postseason, the way Jason Tatum was able to go to a different level and Jaylen Brown's offense was something, and we saw Terry Rozier getting better, and it seems like Al Horford even had a bit more confidence and was sometimes a little more aggressive this postseason, although once Tristan Thompson showed up, he had some problems. But still, given how good this team was and the fact that they have Marcus Morris still for next year and all that, once you bring Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward back, is this the best team in the NBA? Are they at least the second best team in the NBA? Are they maybe the one team besides Houston who actually has a chance against Golden State? Well, let's dive into a few things. So, you assume the starting five becomes Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, right? That five can kind of do everything, okay? If we start with defense, pretty much all those guys, besides Kyrie, of course, can defend multiple positions. We've seen Al Horford, be a part of great defenses pretty much his entire career at this point. The Hawks were always good defensively, and the Celtics were the best defensive team in the league this season. Now, Utah really was, but mathematically the Celtics were. So, Horford knows what he's doing there, and then Tatum's defense was better than everybody thought it was going to be this season. Hayward's good. Jaylen seems like he can become one of the best defenders in the league, and then hopefully Kyrie just doesn't screw it all up. He didn't do that when he was playing this season. He's a little taller and just a little better than Isaiah Thomas, so you're not going to see that drastic of a difficulty in terms of hiding him on defense and all that, although he can definitely be exploited sometimes, no doubt. And then, of course, Brad Stevens is so damn good at drawing up defense, and the way this team will double and then close out to shooters because they're very athletic and they can do that, and they can all just move around the floor really well. Defensively, that starting five should just be fantastic. And then when you're bringing in like Rozier as your backup point, who's not bad, and maybe Marcus Smart will be back next season. Marcus Morris definitely will, and he can also defend a few positions, and Aaron Baines has been like a pretty okay defender for them this year as well. And then you include Semi Ojeleye, who already is a pretty damn good defender. Offensively, who knows? Yeah, I think this team is set up to be a phenomenal defensive team next season that can switch almost everything and have really good one-on-one defense and all that stuff. Now, could the rebounding be a problem with Horford in there without Baines? Maybe. This is not like Horford with Amir Johnson and Jay Crowder next to him. Like, between Gordon Hayward and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I think that's enough to where you're not going to get destroyed on the boards all the time. But if you are facing a team that makes it their mission to grab offensive rebounds, yeah, I think you could see some times when Aaron Baines maybe has to go in the game a little quicker than normal, or Marcus Morris, because he's a little more physical than, let's say, like Jason Tatum would be. But I also think, given that Tatum, Hayward, and Brown, if there was an incentive by Stevens for them to grab rebounds, I feel like they would grab a few more. Also, Tatum was just a really good rebounder in college, so it suggests that he'll just keep on improving as a rebounder in the NBA. And plus, if this team's just going to be so good on defense that they force a lot of misses, then that'll help him out as well. But when Al Horford's your center, you're always going to give up offensive boards. He's a bad rebounder. It's just the way it is. But still, the defense should be really good. If we get to the offense, these five guys can also pretty much do everything, because the craziest thing is you have three guys who can isolate and bail you out of a bad possession. Kyrie, who's one of the best in the league at it, Jason Tatum, who showed himself to be really good at it during the playoffs, and then Gordon Hayward, who's probably the third best of it among those three guys. And hell, Jaylen Brown's not even horrible at it. Like, yeah, I wouldn't ask him to isolate too much, but he showed some real ball handling skills in the postseason. So even if you do manage to play some good defense against Brad Stevens' X's and O's plays where he'll force mismatches and he'll get all of these guys moving off ball, and Horford will bring the ball up, and then Kyrie will be spotting up, and you're going to get Kyrie pick and rolls with probably everybody on the team at different situations. Even if you manage to defend all that, there might be 7 seconds left, and then Gordon Hayward will just take you one-on-one, or Tatum will, or Kyrie will, and they're going to score, they're going to get fouled. So, I mean, this team is going to be a real terror on both sides of the floor, if you ask me. And then you couple that with, like, Rozier, who can do some things offensively, of course, and Morris has his moments, although sometimes he needs to slow down with the isolations and long twos, on top of just the amount of spot-up opportunities that this team would have, because that's the other thing with that starting five. All those guys can shoot, so you can have Horford spotting up, which is going to draw out the opposing team's big guy, and we see what that does. But I mean, they could really go 5 out, because Jaylen Brown's three-pointer was better this season. Jason Tatum's three was a lot better than people thought it was going to be in college. And then between Kyrie and Hayward, like, what Houston does, the Celtics wouldn't commit to it because it's not Brad Stevens' style, and also they don't have a guy who's as good as James Harden. But they could have moments of that where it's just 5 out and Kyrie ISOs on a switch, or maybe he just ISOs on a point guard, and that could be productive offense for them. And then you just combine all that with, like, just the Brad Stevens stuff that this team is going to draw up at times, whether it's after timeouts, out of bounds plays, and just everything he does. It's going to be a hell of a team, man. I do think the one thing they could use is still a wing shooter off the bench. Now, Hayward and Kyrie being back is going to help things, but, you know, like we saw with Ogilvy a lot in these playoffs, where dude can't shoot, you know, and I know what he does on defense for you, but sometimes you just need one spot-up guy, and I think with a healthy team, this spot-up guy is not going to be required to play 20-plus minutes a game, but maybe there would just be stretches when you just need, like, a Marco Bellinelli-esque player to come in and hit a couple of threes for you, right? Now, I assume that the starting lineup is always going to have, like, at least 2 guys in the game at all times, which means you're guaranteed to have 2 guys who can shoot, which is huge, and then, you know, from there you mix and match, and Rozier can hit from outside and stuff like that. So they shouldn't have a huge problem with the lack of shooting, but I do think just one extra shooter on the wing would still not hurt them. Yeah, the team is definitely going to be something. I mean, if we look at some of the other teams in the East, right? You look at the Sixers. That's the team you would look at for the big jump. Well, number one, we don't know what the hell is going to be the outcome of this whole Colangelo thing. I mean, what probably happens is that the Colangelos are no longer involved with the Sixers, because that's pretty much all Philly can really do to make sure that they do right by the players, unless the Colangelos somehow prove that they're innocent without, like, any doubt, which is probably not going to happen. So that might defer some potential free agents from coming, depending on if it's going to be a lengthy investigation and that sort of thing. Who knows? But just looking at the roster between Simmons and Embiid, hopefully Fultz gets better, Covington, Saric, maybe re-signing Bellinelli, maybe re-signing Ilyasova, I don't know. That looks like the next team to take a big jump, right? I do think Embiid, his fatigue against someone like a Horford could still be kind of exposed, because Embiid, his conditioning is good, but I do think he has to get to another level to where he can defend Horford outside of the paint while also still doing all of the offensive and rebounding things that the Sixers need him to do to give them a real chance, right? We assume Ben Simmons is going to get a year better, whether that means showing some real life as a shooter or just becoming a little better in terms of, like, posting up and floaters, mid-range jumpers, whatever it may be. Free throws would be huge as well. whatever it may be, but I do assume that Philadelphia, if I can talk right, is going to improve a bit, which is going to defer the Celtics just running through the East, I guess. Of course, we don't know what happens with LeBron. Decent chance he's not on the Cavs, given just the roster around him. But, I mean, if LeBron James plans on, like, some team that we're not even talking about, clearing a whole bunch of cap space, and then him and Paul George end up there next season, I don't think any of us are going to be shocked. And then you still have to remember the Raptors, right? I mean, we should still care about the team that nearly won 60 games. Maybe? I don't know. Shout out to Toronto. Yeah, but I mean, even with everything I just said, I think, barring what happens with LeBron, the Celtics could very well be the best team in the Eastern Conference next season. They could be the second best team in the NBA. They could be the one team, well, the second, because Houston's got a real shot. I mean, they pushed the Warriors to 7, and if they had Chris Paul, they could have won. So the Celtics could be the other team besides Houston that could really go at Golden State, and yeah. So good things coming up for Boston. They still have draft picks, which is insane. And yeah, it's a good time to be a Celtics fan. Anyway, that's going to do it. Once again, new podcast, the 76ers burner account situation, and then Pusha T and Drake.